跟着我们这进度，我的时间交给阿波。
讲及时。
Are you going to translate? I try. You try. Okay.
Well, good morning.
Good morning.
Very good to be back with you. Please take your copy of God's Word and turn to Romans chapter 1.
我们要看罗马书第1章。
And we're going to look together this morning at just simply one verse.
我们今天只要看第1节的圣经。
Specifically verse 18. So chapter 1, verse 18.
我们要看第1章18节。
I believe as we examine this very critical verse, we find the key that unlocks the gospel.
这一章这个短短的这一个经节，让我们可以开启福音的大门。
And this is the starting point of evangelism.
这是传道的一个开始。
So let me read. For the wrath of God is revealed from heaven against all ungodliness and unrighteousness of men, who by their unrighteousness suppress the truth.
原来神的愤怒从天上显明在一切不虔不义的人身上，就是那些行不义、阻挡真理的人。
Paul has already announced his theme in verses 16 and 17.
在16节、17节，保罗已经很清楚地告诉他要说的。
He proudly proclaims, I am not ashamed of the gospel of Christ.
第16节说：“我不以福音为耻。”
Way back in verse 1, he called it the gospel of God.
他在第1节他就说，福音他是被派遣传福音的使者。
And here in verse 16, he calls it the gospel of Christ because Christ is the culmination.
这16节他说，这福音本是神的大能。
And so as he says, he's not ashamed of the gospel of Christ, for it is the power of God unto salvation to everyone that believes, to the Jew first and also to the Greek.
他说，他不以福音为耻，他是被差遣要传给当时的犹太人，然后希腊人。
For in it the righteousness of God is revealed from faith to faith, as it is written, the just shall live by faith.
这里他所要讲的，就是要用信心来接受神的福音。
And so now he moves to verse 18, and he begins to unfold in great detail the substance of that theme.
然后他在18节这里就开启，让我们看到另一方面的事。
To help the Christian understand the significance and the meaning of the fullness of the gospel of Jesus Christ.
让基督徒能够知道福音的奥秘，福音的能量。
So in verse 18, as he says, the wrath of God is revealed from heaven against all ungodliness and unrighteousness of men who hold the truth in unrighteousness.
原来神的愤怒从天上显明在一切不义的人的身上。
He's basically saying that the gospel message begins with a statement about the wrath of God.
福音的开始就是告诉你，人都是不全不义的。
Frankly, that's opposed to most of our evangelistic technique. Most of our contemporary gospel sharing purposely avoids the theme of God's wrath.
现在许多人传福音的时候，都避免提到说神的愤怒、神的正义的一面。
We talk about love and we talk about happiness. We talk about abundant living.
我们提到神的爱，神的能量、神的恩惠，而我们不愿意谈这些更严肃的课题。
We talk about forgiveness and we talk about joy and about peace.
我们谈到和平，我们谈到跟神和好，谈到我们得到神的祝福。
We offer people all of those things and ask them, wouldn't you like to have all of these things?
所以我们讲好的一面，你信了以后，你可以得到这些来吸引未信的人。
But we rarely talk about judgment.
我们避免谈到审判这些字眼。
I wonder how many times, if you shared the gospel, did you begin by saying, by the way, did you know that God's wrath is revealed against your ungodliness?
你在对不信的人，你会不会开宗明义的去告诉他说，神的愤怒在你的身上？
We're in such a hurry to win friends and influence people that we sometimes bypass the starting point.
所以我们经常把这最重要的一个课题，把它忽略掉，而谈到神的爱、神的祝福。
From Paul's perspective, fear becomes the first pressure applied to evil men to let them know about the wrath of God.
在这里，保罗却很清楚地告诉你说，神的愤怒是在这些所有不虔不义的人的身上。
Now, admittedly, the wrath of God is a hard subject to talk about.
当然，这是一个非常严肃、困难的课题。
I find it myself very difficult to begin talking to people about Christ from this starting point.
我自己在我经验里头也很难用这个神的愤怒当作开始传福音的前端。
Yet it's the beginning of the gospel and the proper preparation for the announcement of grace.
事实上，这是福音的开始，就是要人知罪。
After all, how can people understand anything about God's love if they don't understand about God's hate?
当人只知道神的爱，而忘掉说神所恨恶的这些罪恶，
How can they understand anything about His grace if they don't understand His law?
假如他们不知道神的律法，他们怎么能够尝到神恩惠的甜美？
How can they understand forgiveness if they don't understand the penalty for sin?
假如他们不知道罪的后果要得到审判，他们怎么会感到高兴？因为他的罪的赦免。
Men can't understand. They cannot seek grace and salvation unless they are affected with the dread of the wrath of God.
人不知道福音的甜蜜，福音的大能。假如他们不知道，不认识说他们是要被惩罚的。
Unless men sense they are in grave danger, there's no pressure applied to them to change.
假如人不知道他们有这样的压力，将来的审判，他们就不会来接受福音。
God knows this about men. That's why He included so much about His wrath in His Word.
所以他在这里我们看到保罗在这里提到说神的愤怒。
He wants us to know about that attribute.
要我们知道他的正义的一面。
Now, sometimes when you talk about God being a God of wrath, people get upset.
当我们当提到说神的正义的一面，许多人就感到非常的可怕。
They don't understand how God can be a God of anger or a God of wrath or a God of fury.
他们没有办法想象说神也会愤怒，神也会惩罚人类。
And that's simply because they don't understand God.
这很简单的来说，他们不晓得神。
So let's see if we can help ourselves to a deeper understanding of God's wrath in perspective with all his other attributes.
我们能够很尽心的来学习神正义的那一方面，他的愤怒。
God's attributes are always balanced with his divine perfection.
神的愤怒是基于他对于要求的完全。
If God did not have wrath and God did not have anger, he would not be God.
假如这个神都永远是好好先生的话，他就不是一个神。
God is perfect in his love on one hand, and he's perfect in his hate on the other hand.
他在他的右边是这样慈爱，这样的给你机会，给你恩典；在另一方左边，他仍然要实行他的公义。当你不照着他的旨意行，你要偏心己路的时候，他就会惩罚你。
Of Jesus Christ, it says in Hebrews 1:9, you have loved righteousness and hated wickedness.
在希伯来书第1章那边讲到说，神的本性，他喜爱公义，但是他也恨恶罪恶。
And that's the perfect balance of God's nature.
这是神的本性。
As I mentioned, one of the tragedies of Christianity in our time is the failure to preach the hatred of God or the judgment of God.
在我们当今的社会，许多的教会避免来诉说神正义的一面。
We are so non-confrontational, we're so sentimental, we're so kind of mushy in our Christianity at times.
所以就很多基督徒就变成一个相应的规范，避免让别人感到不舒服、感到尖锐的问题。
And please understand, I'm not saying that God doesn't love, but
我在这里并不是说神没有他的爱的一面，
it's just that you'll never understand how great his love is unless you know how great his wrath is.
你假如不知道神有愤怒的一面，有正义的一面，你就不会感到他爱的那一方面的喜乐。
If you can understand how so profoundly God hates sin,
你也假如不知道神对罪恶是这样的愤怒，
then you'll find it even more amazing how that God can love sinners.
你就会知道说神是这样的爱，甚至是罪人，他仍然会爱你。
So without an understanding of his hate, his love is crippled somewhat in our human understanding.
假如不知道神有正义一面，有惩罚的一面，你只提到神的爱，就像一个破掉的人一样。
Love and grace are our favorite terms, but are absent of meaning if God does not hate.
爱跟恩惠，假如没有恨，神的罪的恨，你就不会感到这些福音的可爱。
In spite of our reluctance to see God as a God of hate and a God of wrath,
我们尽量避免说神的公义，神的恨恶罪恶。
Scripture clearly indicates and emphasizes God's wrath, and I want to take us on a quick tour of some scriptures to show that.
我想用几节的经节来让你看到神对罪是恨恶的。
Psalm chapter 2, beginning in verse 1.
诗篇第2章第2篇第1节那里提到。
I'll read that while he's looking it up. Why do the nations rage and the people imagine a vain thing? The kings of the earth set themselves and the rulers take counsel together against the Lord and against his anointed, saying, Let us break their bands asunder and cast their cords from us. Verses 1 through 3.
第2篇第1节，外邦为什么争闹？万民为什么谋算希望的事？世上的君王一起起来，臣宰一同商议，要抵挡耶和华，并他的受膏者，说我们要挣开他的捆绑，脱去他们的绳索。
In other words, they're saying, let's get God, let's do away with him.
在这里我们看到这些王，他要把神撇在他们的圈子里头。
He intimidates us, so let's eliminate him.
他是这样的，对我们不利，我们就不要他。
Continuing in verse 4
在第4节，他这样
through
说。
verse 6,
我们
he
看第
says,
4到第6。
But he that sits in the heavens shall laugh. The Lord shall have them in derision. Then shall he speak unto them in his wrath and vex them in his great displeasure.
第4节，那坐在天上的必发笑，主必嗤笑他们。那时他要在炉中责备他们，在炼炉中惊吓他们，说我已经立我的君王在西安我的圣山上了。
Jump down to verse 10.
我们可以跳到第10节。
Now therefore, O kings, be wise and be warned, O rulers of the earth. Serve the Lord with fear and rejoice with trembling. Kiss the Son, lest he be angry and you perish in the way, for his wrath is quickly kindled. Blessed are all who take refuge in him.
我们从10节看到第12节。现在你们君王应当审悟，你们世上的审判官该受管教，当存畏惧侍奉耶和华，又当存战兢而快乐。当以罪亲子，恐怕他发怒，你们便在道中灭亡，因为他怒气快要发作，凡投靠他的都是有福的。
Verse 12 says, when his wrath is quickly kindled, for his wrath is quickly kindled.
在这里他说第12节说，因为他的怒气快要发作。
That word quickly is really translated easily.
在这里英文的翻译是说快就是很快的时间，很短的时间里头。
It's basically saying when God's wrath is easily kindled, people perish.
当神很容易的发怒的时候，人就要受惊吓。
Turn to Psalm 76, verse 6. Verse 6.
第诗篇第76篇第6节。
This is reflecting back on the judgment of God against the Egyptian army.
这是神对以色列的军队所说的话。
It says, At your rebuke, O God of Jacob, both rider and horse lay stunned, but you are to be feared. Who can stand before you once your anger is roused?
第6节到第7节，雅各的神啊，你的斥责一发，坐车的、骑马的都沉睡了，唯独你是可畏的，你怒气一发，谁能在你面前站得住呢？
Turn a couple of chapters over to Psalm 78 and go to verse 49.
我们跳过第77篇，我们看77篇第 第
78
78篇第40节
verse 49.
49节。
We're actually going to read verse 49 through 51.
我们要从49到51。
He let loose on them his burning anger, wrath, indignation, and distress, a company of destroying angels. He made a path for his anger. He did not spare them from death, but gave their lives over to the plague. He struck down every firstborn in Egypt, the first fruits of their strength in the tents of Ham.
他使猛烈的怒气和愤怒、恼恨、苦难，成了一群降灾的使者，引导他们。他为自己的怒气修平了路，将他们交给瘟疫，使他们死亡。第51节，在埃及击杀一切长子，在寒的帐篷中击杀他们强壮时投生的。
God was angry. God was fierce. God had wrath. God had indignation.
神有怒气，他会发怒，他会击杀这些不义的人。
God brought trouble, very severe trouble.
神会将灾难降到人的身上。
The Psalms is the hymn book of Israel.
诗篇是以色列人的诗歌。
As you can see, they had hymns about God's wrath. It was equally part of his nature.
所以他们在这里，我们看到以色列人的诗歌里头也提到神另外的一面，就是他会发怒，他会对罪恶的愤怒。
When is the last time you heard a new song about God's wrath? We don't hear them much.
我们在唱诗的时候，很多诗歌我们都避免看到神的愤怒。
The prophets often spoke about the wrath of God and the judgment of God.
先知经常提到神的愤怒，提到神的责备，提到神所要预言的可怕的灾难。
In Isaiah 9:19, it says, "Though the wrath of the Lord of hosts, through the wrath of the Lord of hosts is the land darkened."
以赛亚书那里也提到神
Isaiah 9:19.
以赛亚书第9章第19节。
I'll read it again. Through the wrath of the Lord of hosts is the land darkened. And then this amazing statement at the end of that. And the people shall be fuel to the fire.
因万军之耶和华的烈怒，地都遭骗，百姓成为火柴，无人怜爱弟兄。
Jeremiah, another prophet, also spoke of the wrath of God in chapter 7 of Jeremiah, verse 20.
在耶利米书第7章，
Jeremiah 7:20.
第7章第20节，
It says, "Therefore thus says the Lord God, Behold, my anger and my wrath will be poured out on this place, upon man and beast, upon the trees of the field and the fruit of the ground. It will be burned and not be quenched."
在耶利米书第7章20节这样写说：所以主耶和华如此说：看啊，我必将我的怒气和愤怒倾在这地方的人和畜序上，并田野的树木和地里的出产上，必如火烧起来，不能熄灭。
These are just a few of the passages in the Old Testament that talk about the wrath of God.
在这几节的旧约的经文里头，让我们看到神是会发怒的，神对人们的不敬是会有强烈的反弹。
You see God's wrath shown in the Old Testament against the old world when he brought the flood.
我们看到神的愤怒在大洪水的时候，我们看到他把那整个世界就淹没。
Against the people at the Tower of Babel.
在别是巴的这些人们要建造高塔，要起于天上，神也愤怒，让他们造不成。
Against Sodom and Gomorrah and the cities of the plain.
对于索多玛、俄梅拉这两个罪恶的城，他是这样的生物，用火把他们毁灭。
Against the Egyptians and on many occasions against the Israelites.
我们看到在埃及的时候，他也对他的选民